Ladies and gentlemen, thank you all for supporting the Neuro Subathon thus far. We are day 4 going into this with 705 subscribes thus far. We've got 550 for the Neuro AMA and 450 for the baked beans, and I'm going to do both of those things at once. This is a full can of baked beans, unopened, top and bottom, and I'm going to eat this whole thing using a can opener. Are you ready? I will let you ask me anything starting now. I'm opening the can. We're going to see if my neighbors complain about the fart smells. They might. We're open for questions. Some people asked me some questions earlier. I could start with those. Someone asked me, what do I think of the current map pool? Maps. Neo-Humanity is an interesting and unique map. It's pretty hard to break Protoss, but I recently watched Cyril beat Classic with Ling Roach Ravager Swarm Host, and it looked really strong, and he went for Lurkers after that. So pretty good map. Altitude is a pretty large map, and it's got a really nice tile set with water and grass and snow and metal. So it's a really cool looking map. Maybe pun wasn't intended there, but I like this map. It's also a pretty big one, so you get some nice macro games. This one is the try to survive against 2 base Terran all-ins map. Against Protoss, it's a little bit tricky. The 3rd base is really far away, it feels like. Maybe it's not super far away, but you can absolutely pick off some probes being transferred. And this one, it's not super huge. It's pretty hard to break mech on this map too, so if you struggle against mech, maybe veto this one. This might be the best Zerg map. It's just really wide and lots of bases to be taken. Also nice grassy fields is good. Royal Blood. Cool boardwalk kind of tile set to this one. Another really nice mech map. Has a bunch of rocks on it, which is really good for mech, and it has some gold bases to keep it interesting. It's okay. And then Gresvin, this one is pretty difficult against split map Terran, but it does make for some pretty fun games, so I like this map. And then Babylon is another one of the short rush Terran will 2-base all in you kind of maps with a bunch of rocks and grass and that kind of thing. But currently this season I'm not vetoing any of the maps. I'm just playing them all out, even if they're not necessarily Zerg favored. Let me check my map win rates. Yeah, so Royal Blood is very low for me. So if I wanted to improve my overall win rate, I could just veto that. I might do that. Meh. Royal Blood, ouch. All right, next question. What is your favorite vegan recipe? So currently my go-to for just like lunch and dinner meals is I make a burrito bowl type thing, which is a base of brown rice, and then I have black beans, corn, sometimes there'll be sweet potato mixed in, and then I'll do the like vegan chicken stuff sometimes, and then I'll have some very, very, very spicy hot sauce, and then a sliced avocado with salt on it, and then add some vegan cheese on top. That's probably my go-to. One thing you've wondered is how I balance self-discipline and self-compassion. You're wondering if I had any thoughts on that. Yeah, so I think that's striking the balance between when you decide to push yourself and when you decide to just go degen and full relax. So think about what activities and things allow you to really decompress and relax. For me, that's browsing content on the internet and watching shows. I like watching some anime shows now and then. I'm watching Vinland Saga and Demon Slayer currently. I'm not quite up to date with them, but I'm pretty close. I'm also up to date on My Hero, and I've been watching Mandalorian as well. So being able to know when to push and when to rest, I think that's the question. And then other aspects of self-compassion sometimes do mean working a little bit harder, because you can feel more mentally satisfied with yourself if you've done some good work and if you've made some progress and made some gains. So finding the right balance of discipline and compassion is very hard to do. And I think a lot of people really struggle with that just because of how difficult it is. It's almost impossible to balance it perfectly, I think. Most people are going to lean to one side of either they push themselves too hard or they don't push themselves hard enough. And it's a very personal assessment to make. Will Blur asks, what do you want your SC2 legacy to be? How does that align with win conditions you set for yourself when you started streaming? That's a good question. So my StarCraft legacy, I'm going to try to put the beans over the rice here and not spill stuff on my desk. So if I swear loudly, that's something happened there. All right. I'm going to go with the full can of baked beans. I know it might seem absurd, but I'm kind of a wild dude sometimes. All right. The whole can of baked beans. This is a quarter of a day's worth of sodium, by the way, which is more than you should have probably in one meal. So my goal in Legacy and StarCraft is to be the person who reminds others to be respectful of each other. My goal was not to be a competitive pro. That wasn't really something that I think had the time or the bandwidth to do, given that I switched from poker to StarCraft after I had finished college, so I was super duper behind other people who were already career pro gamers. And the main thing that I've been trying to bring to the scene is a dialogue about mindset and tilt management. So I feel like I already succeeded in that. I went to the community summit for Legacy of the Void. This is many years back. But we had this cool presentation where they were talking about what they were going to add to StarCraft and looking forward to the future and stuff. And one of the slides that they put up during this PowerPoint was be excellent to each other. And it was just a reminder to treat other people in the community well. And they put my picture up there because I was apparently to them the symbol of being kind to other people. And once I saw that, I felt like I had made it. Like I had reached my audience. I had gotten the message delivered to the point where even the developers of the game that I streamed acknowledged me. And that felt amazing. One of the coolest moments of my life, I think. Hello, as a Dota gamer, what is your general feeling towards League? What do you appreciate about Dota that League is missing? I like creep denies. I also like the flexibility and complexity of the roles. I like the art style of Dota more than League. The game looks better to me, just visually. And I played Han, and I played Dota 1 and Warcraft 3, so it just feels a lot more familiar. But I haven't really played enough League of Legends to give it a perfectly fair assessment. Grim, thank you for the 8 months of support. Paper Yang asks, what is better, to be born good or to overcome your evil nature through great effort? This might be an opinion, but I don't really think people are born particularly good or particularly evil. I think that a lot of it comes down to the environment that they were raised in and how they respond to it. So I think people are born not necessarily fully neutral, but I think pretty close to neutral. And then with all the decisions that they make and also how they're treated, that can move them in one direction or the other. So say, for example, there's someone on the Dota ladder who's really toxic in BM. The evil that they're representing is absolutely their responsibility. However, to explain that behavior, sometimes that's because they didn't have good role models and they had bad role models growing up. So no one really taught them those life lessons, which is why I feel a sort of, I don't know if a sense of pity is the right word, but I feel like many people didn't really get those good opportunities to learn important life lessons, maybe because they were neglected or because they were abused or something like that. And they really just pass that behavior forward, which is the lowest effort thing that they can do. And it's energy efficient to just pass forward the venom that you've been dealt, because that allows you to vent in a very unhealthy and evil way. So yeah, I guess that's kind of a long-winded way of saying I don't think people are particularly good or particularly evil by their nature. I think you define yourself by your actions over time and you're influenced by the people in your life. Thank you, Spenzo, for the token of gratitude. The Lucifer Effect by Philip Zimbardo. Is that what I was describing? One of the things that I saw from him in terms of a TED Talk was bad apples, bad barrels, and bad barrel makers. And he referenced a study which now would never be conducted because it was so unethical. I think he might have conducted it actually, where he took university students and he assigned them to either be the like inmates in a prison or the prison guards. And over time, the prison guards were more and more abusive to the inmates, and the inmates were kind of more and more like defeatist and just feeling really bad and things like that. And it got to be really toxic to the point where they had to bail on the whole experiment, which sort of raised the question of, are people good or bad by nature, or do the situations we put people in lead them down these tracks of good or evil? I don't know if there's a perfect and complete answer to that question, but it's definitely one of life's big questions. What Zerg unit would you like to be reincarnated as? Ultra would be pretty baller. Being a flying unit would be very fun. I would say being an overseer might be the best because you can fly super fast. You can send out spies, but you're also not hurting people. Overseer. What are some things that have had a big influence in your life and approach to things because you seem to have a refined philosophy and approach to life? Dude, one of the ones that I was thinking about today while I was in some Super BM Dota games was the football coaches that I had growing up. I grew up in Texas, and it's all about football. Like, it's a big part of the culture. And one thing that was really a standard part of the coaching method for them was your behavior as a student meant that was like completely connected to your ability to play on the football team. You weren't allowed to be a football player if you mistreated your teachers or your classmates. And if you were on the football team and you were rude to your teacher or to your classmates, you could be benched, and you would have to do like torture workouts where they make you run more laps and do stuff like that. So we had immediate consequences for disrespect. And sometimes the whole team would be roped into that, which I've seen people in chat say maybe they agree or disagree with collective punishment. But a lot of these people in these video games that we play, they do these behaviors that would get them in big trouble if they actually had a coach, but they get away with it because they don't have anyone like looking over their shoulder and telling them, hey, that's really bad behavior, you should not do that. So I feel like for me to be yelled at as a 12-year-old to be good and to treat my teachers well and to treat my fellow classmates well, I'm very grateful for that lesson. And a lot of people didn't get that. So that's kind of what I'm trying to bring to the table with my stream, is I try to bring people an opportunity to do things differently, to, instead of berate your teammates, to build up your teammates, to focus on the map objectives, to maintain good manners even when other people are BM. So shout out to Coach Roach. Another coach that I had was Coach Stitt. He was good. My cross-country coach was amazing, and our cross-country team treated each other very well. So yeah, I feel like I got a lot of really good examples set for myself. Another big example for me is my father. My father is successful, he's strong, and he's gentle with people, which it's really rare, I think, for people to be able to have all of those at once. A lot of people are really abusive if they are strong relative to others, or they get egotistical if they're successful, or they're just like generally using their advantages to make other people's situation worse. But my dad was really good to my mom and continues to be. So he set a really good example for me and shows that you can succeed in life, you can push your progress toward your goals, you can be competitive, and you can be sportsmanlike at the same time. What are your thoughts on the saying, fake it till you make it? So that does have a little bit of value to it. I would say that's the kind of sentiment that can be useful to a person, but it's not a be-all end-all in itself. It's mainly a way to get people to come out of their shell and try something, even if they're a little bit anxious about it or they lack some confidence. So yeah, a useful phrase, but it's limited. Have you heard of shopping cart theory? No. You can tell me that if you want to. How old am I now and where do I live? I'm 33 and I live in the Seattle area. Back up to 10 hours, heck yeah. You like believe it until you become it better? Yeah, I think that's a more positive way of framing it. Fake it sounds like you're deceiving people. Please ignore my diary entry since it's not a question. Okay. What was my voice actor career? So I put voice actor because of all the voices that I do on stream. I haven't been employed as a voice actor. I'm open to the idea of doing that, but I'm not familiar with the field. It's just the characters that I do on stream that you see. Act like a better version of yourself. Yeah, one thing that I think of as a concept is your highest self. And I don't mean like smoking a bunch of weed. I mean your best self, where that's you doing the things that you really wish you could do and strive to do, but require more effort and more discipline and potentially restraint in certain ways. And how we all fall short of that ideal self just because we have limited energy. We can imagine ourselves like busting our ass and not sleeping and just building businesses and doing crazy stuff. And to an extent, you can push yourself in that direction. But at a point, you do need to be kind to yourself. You do need to rest. You do need to have relaxing time where you're not like thinking about really difficult stuff. So it is a balance. Shopping cart theory is pretty funny, but true. The theory is that you can tell whether someone is a good member of society based on whether or not they return their shopping cart. That's funny. That's just one particular example of when you can spend a few seconds to save someone else some effort. As with every job, I'm sure it sometimes gets to be a lot. What are some mental health things you do for yourself that calm you down or help you return to a positive headspace? So for me, doing the burpees isn't just for my fitness, it's also for my tilt management. I feel like doing something physical and exerting that really takes the edge off that heat, that mental anger and stress that you get toward other people. Another thing that's really nice is my weekly run. So I go run in the woods once a week. And whenever you get away from electronics, that's a really good opportunity to just kind of let your brain run through the questions that you have and not be distracted by the flavor of the day, TikTok or tweet or whatever social media stuff. Why does it say Jig's first time chat? That's weird. Have you ever thought about bulking up to see how huge you could get? You've already got great definition and conditioning, but you'd love to see what juicy neuro would look like. The juiciest I've been was in college, and that's when I was having a lot of protein powder. I was eating a lot. I think I had like the protein plus creatine mix too. And that's when I set my personal best bench max. I liked the way my body looked at that point, but I couldn't run as well. So I have thought about it. I haven't made that a priority for myself, but I do like lifting. Mainly the thing that I would really benefit from is if I lived in an apartment complex that had a weight rack, like for the core lifts for squat and bench and so on. I do have some hand weights, but you can't really push max weight the same way if you don't have that like full heavy lifting equipment. But yeah, I'm open to it, but I haven't prioritized it. What if you're already exhausted and can only focus on keeping your head above water? How do you get past that into some quest for self-improvement? I would say start with the smallest forward goal for yourself and then gradually ramp it up. If you're in a difficult spot, you should aim small. Like, just set a really low bar for yourself and just try to get over that. It's sort of like how a new boxer or a boxer that lacks confidence will take easy fights that they can win just to build confidence. And then you get to the harder fights whenever your mindset is stronger. Can you give us a convoluted spoiler for Stormgate that we will not understand but that will stimulate our imagination? Huh. I'll have to think about that. That's a weird question. It's like asking me to borderline break NDA in a way that's so veiled that it's not really. I try to play it safe and respect their privacy. I do know that there's a lot of stress on game developers to make their game look good and for people to be excited about it. And I've talked with all of them, and they absolutely feel the pressure. They feel the judgment. People are very judgy. They have opinions and they hold them strongly. So dealing with all of that criticism of people saying that it looks bad, that hurts the people who are working on it. I think a lot of people don't really realize that, and it's a fair opinion to have. So I'm not saying that you can't say that stuff looks bad, but from the artist's perspective, it does sting. So yeah, I think compassion and encouragement as people are working on their projects. Full blessing from me to the Stormgate team and to the Immortal Gates of Pyre team. Those are two up-and-coming RTS games that are in development. The self-improvement gospel, sometimes it's like really hammed up and they make it very dramatic. I don't really think that people make transformative life changes very often where you go from being one kind of person to a dramatically different person. I think in the short term, people can do that, but then they'll eventually kind of swing back to their usual stuff. I keep threatening to buy you a squat rack. I'll do it. I don't even know how much those cost. What is like a big old squat rack? Would you ever DM a session of D&D? Yes, I actually have the first D&D one-shot that I'm going to do as part of this subathon. Should you buy a Steam Deck, and if so, should you get the 256 gigabyte or 512 gigabyte version? They have a 512 gigabyte version? What in the earth are you putting on the Stream Deck that requires that much space? Mother of God. I have the basic one. I have a normal Stream Deck. Are you putting like huge HD video files on there? Game development is hard. You try to convince as many devs as you can to stay off social media, Reddit forums, because you rarely see positive reactions outweighing negatives. Yeah, I gave a positive reaction to Stormgate on their subreddit, and it was cross-posted to the StarCraft subreddit, and they shit all over it. They thought that what I was saying was like super fake, and that I was a shill and a sellout and all this kind of stuff, or that it was a paid advertisement. Just like really grouchy negative behavior. And it's fair for them to be cynical and skeptical, so I get that. But it was really weird, like the intense negativity. Also, the post that I made, it wasn't for the StarCraft community, it was for the Stormgate people who are already hyped. So in that sense, it wasn't really given a fair shake. But yeah, people are grouchy. Steam Deck? What's the difference between a Steam Deck? Oh, the handhold gaming thing, not Stream Deck. I just read it as Steam Deck because I have one. No, Stream Deck? I'm confused. I need help. What would you like to see in StarCraft 3? I would like to see matchup queue, where you can queue ZVT, ZVP, and then skip a mirror matchup, and you have independent matchup MMRs. Because one really common problem on the ladder is people will smurf by refusing to play a matchup. And that basically means that they have one matchup that they never play, so they always lose, And then the other matchups, they're just so far above the skill level they should be that they almost always win. So it makes for pretty bad games. I think that would be a really important matchmaking improvement. Is the premium anti-glare etched glass anything notable? Oh, you're talking about the Steam Deck still. What about a new race like Space Orcs? You're talking about a new faction for StarCraft 2? Space Orcs. Isn't that too similar to Warhammer 40k? I guess StarCraft already rips off a lot from that anyway. Keep the questions going. I'm going to heat up the food. The beans, there are more beans than rice in this food bowl, and it's kind of cold. More questions, go, go. Do you have any big or little projects you're excited about, things you would like to do at some point? So I have a sci-fi book project that I've written some on, but it's been a back burner item for me. I would like to get that done at some point. I just haven't really woven it into my weekly workflow. But it's based on the convergence event between the Milky Way, the Triangulum, and the Andromeda galaxies. And this is an actual scientific event that is going to occur a few billion years in the future. All of these galaxies are going to not really collide, but they're going to basically become one big one and kind of rotate around each other, which means that all the different civilizations and species of each of those galaxies are going to be interacting with each other. So you've got like the future humans, and then I've made up a few other species. I've got names for all of them and that kind of stuff, and different characters, and we've got the villain faction. Future humans are the villain faction. Spoiler. But I would say that's a big project that's on the back burner for me that I would like to do. If Zerglings were wearing trousers, do you think they would wear them over all four legs or just over the hind legs? I think all four. They're a lot more like quadrupeds than bipeds. What made you decide to move away from Texas to Washington? I lived in Austin at the time, and I was living with my partner at the time, and we broke up. And there wasn't really a reason for me to stay in Austin in particular other than inertia. So I was thinking about where my family lived and where my friends were. And at the time, my parents and my brother all lived in the Seattle area. And I had friends up here too. So I liked the area and decided to move up here. It's a pretty similar cost of living to living in Austin, which is one of the more expensive areas in Texas. What's your daily/weekly routine like? So I stream usually 6 days a week. I take 1 day off. Historically, it's been Fridays that I take off for the past few years, but I've also been experimenting with taking a different day off just because Friday can sometimes be good for streaming. And I'll stream for anywhere from 8 hours to 12 hours per day. I have more uptime than your average streamer by quite a lot. And then I do my weekly run on Tuesdays. I do 100 burpees every day. I'm over a year of doing that now. And then I highlight YouTube videos at the end of stream. I hang out with Trisha on the phone and FaceTime, usually before and after stream, and sometimes on lunch break. I have my WoW raids Saturday, Sunday on the weekends, 1 to 5 Pacific time. And I do my try-hard StarCraft stuff on Tuesdays. Monday, I play in the ESL Americas Open. Wednesday is kind of a free day where I do whatever, but I stream. And then Thursday, I do either Wayfarers Dungeons & Dragons or Philosophy Clock with Ejay Fatum if the availability is there. Have you ever tried playing fighting games and getting better with them? Yes, I played a lot of fighting games growing up on Xbox and Xbox 360 with my brother. We played a lot of Dead or Alive and Soul Calibur games. Marvel vs. Capcom, Power Stone on Dreamcast. Yeah, I like fighting games. I just don't know the fighting systems for some of them. Like Mortal Kombat, don't really know that one too well. Tekken, I don't know at all. Street Fighter, I don't really know that well other than how to Hadouken. You see Hardcore WoW on the subathon list. Do the official Hardcore realms interest you? Is that different from just having the Hardcore add-on on another server? I don't know how those Hardcore realms work. Maybe you could tell me. At that point in time, there wouldn't even be much similarity between humans of today and humans of that time, no? Yeah, they're basically cyborgs. Who would make the interesting big bad if they made a StarCraft 3 campaign? I don't know. Kerrigan just ascended to such a superpower level that I feel like it's going to be tough for anything to beat her, so she could be the villain. Not sure. Could you give us a preview or description of the story for the one-shot? It's called Parrot's Cove, and it's set in a tropical kind of location. It's going to be kind of set around a sort of adventurers guild that distributes quests, kind of like you've seen in anime and stuff like that, just so I can start other one-shots from the same point and then send them different directions. Saves time and that kind of thing. I don't want to spoil too much about the plot. The 3 players that I have lined up are Apoptosis, Trisha, and Kessnuts. Have you heard of the Carrington event? No, but I can Google it. Carrington event. Most intense geomagnetic storm in recorded history, peaking from 1 to 2 September 1859. Caused sparkling and even fires in multiple telegraph stations. Interesting. I had not heard of that. You will coach me in Street Fighter 6 free of charge. Upside about the foot lady. Let's go. Is Trish your partner? Yes. Is that long distance? Yes. Dreamcast was epic. Yes. Now you have a picture of Zergling with jeans in my mind. Thanks. Watch Chris play. You played a lot of Soul Calibur. I do have that on the list here. The hardcore realms have their own set of rules. Only opt-in PvP. No battlegrounds. Some abilities are turned off. Yeah, I'd be down to roll there. Blizzard will be releasing official hardcore realms. Oh, they're not out yet. Okay. Stoked to have you, Trisha. Obsidian never gets invited to anything. He's too toxic. You're pretty pog at Street Fighter, okay? I believe it. You can be GM in StarCraft. You can be good at other games. I believe it. Sekiro was so enjoyable to watch, you quickly dodging and parrying almost every blow. Yeah, that game's pretty tricky. It took me a bit. It's definitely a high-stress game. Have you ever heard of the normalization of deviance? If you have, do you have any personal examples of it? Let me Google that. Normalization of deviance. Process of which deviance from correct and proper behavior to rule... Doesn't answer. Okay. The process in which deviance from correct or proper behavior or rule becomes culturally normalized. It's where a clearly unsafe practice becomes considered normal if it does not immediately cause a catastrophe. Oh, like dangerous TikTok trends? Ever tried playing a real fighting game like Super Smash Brothers? Ooh, fighting game gatekeeping. Let's go. That's not a real fighting game. What do you think about Artosis' stream? How much do you think he plays a role, and how much he's really just himself? Artosis is a very smart man, and I've talked with him a lot on the Pylon show. He did a podcast episode with me, and he's very professional with his pro casting and stuff like that. I would suspect that he does have some grump when it comes to laddering and Brood War. It's a very frustrating game, and it does feel bad to lose in games like that. But I do think as a streamer, you're very heavily incentivized to just take your normal energy and just turn it up to 11. Kind of like pro wrestlers in the US, where they are big and strong dudes, but they really ham it up to make it entertaining for the audience. And that might be some of their like actual personality, but they really crank it up because they're on stage. Another example would be stage makeup. I don't know if anyone knows about theater, but whenever I would go on stage in college for musical theater, the makeup that they put on you is like really dramatic, to where if someone was like face to face with you, it would look like way too much and it would look really extreme. But the reason you do that is for the people way in the back, so that they can see your facial expressions and stuff like that. So it's a little bit like that. Streaming is a form of entertainment and showmanship, and there are heavy incentives for you to make the content intense. Are you open to more players or doing D&D sessions off stream? I am open to more players, but I want to handpick them as I'm new to D&D. I want to make sure I am pulling on players that I trust to like be within the boundaries of my brand, I guess, which is why I'm going with all 3 people are moderators on my channel, and I know them and I trust them a lot. So yeah, I'm open to that. I don't know if I have the confidence to be paid to Dungeon Master yet. That's a big undertaking. If you want to commission off-stream Dungeon Mastering, I would recommend contacting Apoptosis. He has taken gigs like that before, where he will Dungeon Master for people IRL off-stream. But I don't really have the experience for that. What did you study in college and how did you like it? I studied cognitive science with an emphasis in neuroscience, and I liked it a lot. One of my favorite tests that made me feel like a badass was basically a bunch of blank sheets of paper. This was a cognitive neuroscience class, and it said, draw this region of the brain and label this many structures. Draw the eye and label the structures. So it was very much from memory. You really had to know your stuff, and it wasn't just multiple choice picking your best guess. You really had to be able to like master the material and that kind of stuff. Another cool thing that I did in my brain science course was I designed a mock study, and we had data that was generated for ourselves, but we needed a hypothesis, we needed a method, we needed basically to figure out how to write a scholarly journal paper and how to organize that. But instead of actually conducting the study, we just had data generated for us. But the thing that I was trying to determine was whether different music genres and beats per minute affected people's driving speed. Because I had the theory that whenever people are like really jamming to some upbeat stuff, that might cause them to feel more like in it and focused and really want to drive fast, because that's how I would respond to it. So I just wanted to test that out of curiosity, but it was a mock test. But it still showed me basically the skeleton and the composition of how these scientific studies work. And it also showed me how to identify weak studies, because there are a lot of scientific journal publications that are from not very reputable journals, and they don't have very good statistical significance, and maybe the methodology is not very good. And for someone who hasn't studied a lot of science and how to read journal articles, it can look really serious and official just by how they present all of it. But if you look at how they're doing stuff, it can be pretty crappy some of the time. So I think that was one of the more useful things that I learned from college, which was how to interpret scientific journals and how to discern good quality information from information that's lacking but maybe has an agenda of some kind. Any TV series you've been following? Vinland Saga Season 2, Demon Slayer, My Hero Academia, Mandalorian. I'm not up to date on Mandalorian or Demon Slayer. I'm a few episodes behind, but I'm pretty close to updated on those. What is a piece of advice you wish someone gave you 15 years ago? When you have a big upswing, don't expect that to be the new normal, and save. I've had a couple big upswings. I think the biggest upswing for me that, looking back on it, I feel kind of dumb, was the War Chest era. War Chest promotion. Absolutely, my metrics were bonkers. 1,000 viewer streams. Lots of revenue. Just like huge. And I thought that was what it was going to be. But it basically swung back down to what my average was before after that. And that was pretty soul crushing. It was a pretty rough couple of months for me when I was processing that. And I did splurge with the income whenever I had that big upswing too, because I thought that I had basically ascended to that higher level of streamer, which, yeah, that was just a short-term thing. So being able to identify a short-term spike and then be able to steward that well is really important. I would tell myself that. Also, I would probably, this is kind of sad, I would tell myself to like show more love to my friend who passed away. I don't know if it would have changed an outcome, but I love the guy and miss him. Gran Turismo 3 had Kickstart My Heart from Motley Crue. You heard that come on the radio when driving the other day, and you definitely had to suppress the urge to slam the accelerator. Ha ha! Yep, I was on to something. Oh, right, the beans. Yeah, I left them in the microwave and we had so many questions. 1 second. All right. Do you think thoughts or feelings come first? Feelings. Feelings are instant. Thoughts usually take time to verbalize in your head. Feelings also evolutionarily come first. Animals have feelings, but the thoughts that they have might not be as advanced in some ways. Like a rabbit can be scared. They can also be happy and satisfied. But those might not be the same level of thoughts as a human, but they do absolutely feel. Branching off the advice question, do you think if I had gotten that advice 15 years ago, that it would have changed your behavior? There are a lot of things that we get warned about in life, but we don't take it seriously until we actually face it. Yeah, that's a hypothetical I don't really know the answer to. I don't know if it would have changed my behavior or not. Thoughts can provoke feelings, though. True. Thank you, Reed and Matteo, for the support. As a software dev, you get a rhythm going. When you're listening to music, things fall together faster. You think more clearly. Music definitely has an effect. How did you and Trisha meet? Just through StarCraft streaming and stuff. Trisha actually messaged me on Discord and stuff because a bunch of people were like, Neuro's cool, you should like collab and hang with him. And she messaged me, and it was very lovely and pretty professional messages, just kind of going back and forth, thinking about collaborating, maybe doing team games sometime. And there was definitely interest in chemistry, and I wanted to make sure that I wasn't like being gross or like overly forward or whatever. So I'm also trying to be very business professional, but I think we both thought each other were attractive. And then gradually kind of breaking down some of those barriers and talking about more intimate stuff. And then the chemistry was way, way, way better than I think anyone could have hoped for. And then we had our first date, which was really silly because I wasn't sure how comfortable Trisha was with like video and stuff. And we got ready for this date planning to do some 2v2. That was my idea. And she got all like done up with makeup and stuff like that. And we just did 2v2 in voice, which was more so in my comfort zone than hers, I think. But it was fun. We had a good time. And then things just kept moving forward from there. I went to visit her in Hollywood and we had an amazing time. Absolutely fantastic lady. Super grateful that I met her. And thanks to StarCraft and Twitch for connecting us. Is it okay to ask how much money I make from streaming? I guess so. That's like... A lot of times people don't like that sort of question because your earnings are kind of a personal piece of information, but it doesn't hurt me that much to say, I guess. Last year, I think it was ballpark of 50K. I think the past few years have been ballpark that much. How difficult has it been to transition into a non-carnivore? Not sure if you're full vegan or vegetarian. I'm full vegan currently. It wasn't super difficult. The main difficulties are like when you go to restaurants and stuff, they're not always vegan literate. So you're sometimes not able to have that many items on the menu. I think that's the most difficult part of it. Eating for myself at home is really easy. I basically just eat more stuff. I have a lot of veggies. Yeah, I eat more food to compensate for not having animal products. Because animal products do have more calorie density. Would you consider yourself to be patriotic? Yeah, in a sense. I think I have national pride. I think the US is a relatively good country to live in currently. It's a country that's absolutely done some bad stuff in the past. But now we've been fighting for the good side in certain wars and stuff too. So every country's a mixed bag. I wouldn't say that I'm like super gung-ho American pride, but I also don't hate my country. Is it rough paying your taxes? Not too bad because basically all of my revenue gets funneled through my PayPal, which that makes it easy for me to track. And then some of the other stuff goes direct to me, like my YouTube. So it's not super complicated. It's definitely more complicated than your average job, but it's not impossible. 50K is before taxes. You met your girlfriend doing D&D and she was in California. After a year of long distance, she moved to Washington. Nice. Nice. Seems like being vegan takes a lot of extra work to make sure you're getting all your correct nutrients. It's not that bad. I have a slow cooker meal that I make that checks all the boxes. It's cooking right now, and it has sweet potatoes, carrots, cauliflower, chickpeas, corn, black beans, mushrooms. Yeah, a bunch of, there's onion, garlic, a bunch of spices. And I've calculated it, and it's about 100 grams of protein in the thing. I think it might be harder for you as a power lifter, but there is a vegan strongman guy. If you watch the documentary Game Changers, he set a few of the records for strongman, I think, and he eats vegan. What personal goals do you have for the next few years? So I would like to live with Trisha. That would be like one of the major goals. And that's something that is going to require a move. So I need to save for that. I would like to stream a lot of Stormgate or whatever the next RTS ends up being that hooks me. So that's another key one. If another RTS captivates my attention and I really, really feel like I want to go down that route, I think pushing for the GM equivalent will be really fun. What personal... Oh, I got that one. Well, we do SC2 tonight for 50K. I'm going to do SC2 next. Thank you for your patience, Jamie Portaloo. Is it hard finding good tasting vegan food? Not where I live, but in certain places it is relatively harder. I think the more progressive the location, the more restaurants are going to be full vegan, and the more times you're going to have vegan options on the menu. The more traditional the location, you would say the less they're going to be accommodating for that. Do you buy canned beans? Yes. What about the vitamin B in your omega-3s? Nutritional yeast. Any games that you enjoy or want to play but don't think they're good for streaming? I think Diablo is cool, but I had a bunch of people who are basically StarCraft refugees just really upset that all their StarCraft streamers are playing Diablo. So I streamed StarCraft during the Diablo launch for that reason. If you could instantly change one thing about yourself, what would it be? Instant change. I don't know. I think I'm good. You're addicted to the pea and quinoa protein powder. It's got all the aminos. Yeah, a lot of the vegan protein powders also have a bunch of the vitamin supplements. He doesn't have any real recognized records. He's quite toxic. How so? Both of you living in Las Vegas would be the best. Taller, always taller, lol. What is it gameplay-wise that separates you from a Codes Zerg? It's a bunch of the small details. With StarCraft 2, if you take damage early, you just fall behind and it gets progressively harder. I die to Adept All-Ins. I lose versus certain Cannon Rush kinds of plays. Yeah, it's the fundamentals mainly. What's a question you thought someone would ask but hasn't been asked yet? I'm not sure. I didn't really go into this expecting any particular questions. Have you heard of the YouTube guy Vegan Gains? I've not heard of this person. I feel like having bigger hands is a good thing. Could be. Any cool plans or places you want to go at some point? I think an Egypt trip with Trish will be really awesome. I've been to Egypt before, and the ancient Egyptian stuff is super cool. I think she'll really enjoy that. Vegan Gains is unhinged. I don't know what that means. Do you live by yourself? No, I live with Homestar, Runner, Batman, Jimothy, Brunt, Smeagol, and Icky Sticky, and Fumble MacGuffin. If you were to study which BA Hans UK would like to study at uni. Can you rephrase the question? I don't know what you're asking. Toilet paper roll over or under? Over. That's a lot of beans. It is. Good evening. All right, we got 5 minutes. Do you use a protein powder now? Yes. Orgain, I think, is a brand. Dinner with which 3 now deceased individuals? Best friend Kukio, who passed away. Miss you, buddy. Let's have dinner. My roommate in college, Adam, he passed away. Miss you, bud. It'd be great to catch up.
Whoa.
Love you, bud.
Whoa. Oh,
And then...
Oh, no. Oh, what the fuck? Oh.
And then throw in a celebrity one. Get Bruce Lee at the table. That'd be pretty cool. Mr. Ruby Z, thank you for the 10. Have any pets? Want any? I have become the cat dad of Loki, Trisha's cat. So I'll count him. Want any? I think it would be fun if we had a dog. But we haven't really chased that route yet. Having a pet is an expense and a responsibility, so you want to be careful about that. What would I like to study at university if I could have the time? I would probably continue with my route of brain science. What's the most frightening experience you've ever had? I almost got hit by a car once, and I was basically walking across this is like the drive by a bunch of buildings kind of at a strip mall kind of thing, and there was this Jeep that was like barreling down at like 55 miles an hour or something. They were going way too fast for that, and I didn't expect them to be going so incredibly fast. So I was able to dart across and not get hit, but I had a insane boost of adrenaline after that. It's the main one that comes to mind. You want a fat, hairless cat. 3 best foods to start going vegan. Starting your meals like with a foundation of brown rice and black beans is really good to get a complete protein in there and get lots of nutrients. Basically, just think about any meal that has cheese. You can sub it with vegan cheese, and then anything that has a kind of meat, you can add in a bunch of hearty vegetables. Jackfruit is a really common one that has a almost meat-like texture. So you can go get like jackfruit tacos at a lot of restaurants. Those are really good. And it tastes very similar to like a fish taco kind of thing. Long days and pleasant nights. Thank you, Hyman Joe, for the 10 months of Prime. If you could have one thing from WoW and RL, what would it be? Hearthstone, mounts, Tauren horns, res spell. Have you ever gone to Europe? Yes, I've been to England, France, and Italy. Went into Wales for a little bit. And I had a layover in Germany. So I've been to the airport in Germany. How much water do you drink a day? A bunch of these. I don't know how many. Have you seen Underpants? Captain Underpants was a funny book. Is vegan because you hate the taste of meat or just love the things with eyes? So I was converted by Trisha, and this was sort of a voluntary step for me early on. She didn't like say you need to be vegan necessarily. It was definitely a big plus if I was, though, but I hadn't really given it that much thought, and I did kind of cash in on the macho cred of poking fun at vegans and stuff in the past. So this was kind of leading up to the first time I went down to travel and visit her, and I was thinking about this kind of like eating meat being like smoking cigarettes, where if you're not a cigarette smoker, you don't really want to be right in the face of someone who is just smoking a cigarette because it smells really gross and it's just ugh. So I thought about if I'm eating like meat and eggs and stuff like this, and then I want to go for a kiss, it's not really going to land as well. So I was thinking, well, I understand the ethical benefits of going vegan, and I'm going to try it. I hadn't really tried it to see how my body responded to it. So I tried it for the weeks leading up to visiting her. And then we ate vegan the whole time that I was there. And then when I got back, it was like, yeah, this is basically fine. So that's how I got started with it. I have looked into a lot of the stuff in the animal industry and stuff like that. And I think the way that animal products are served to people is now very heavily economized for the lowest possible cost. And it doesn't really have much regard for the ethics for how the animals are treated. So thinking about that, and then also helping the animals, and also just giving them a voice and considering their pain and suffering is one of Trisha's very main goals. And to me, it seems like a really awesome way to support your partner if they have a really primary life goal and you can make a big impact in that same front with them. So for me to cut the animal products in my diet is a change for sure. And it's a change that helps animals, and it also helps Trisha with her goal at the same time. Health-wise, I've been basically the same. Like, I was healthy before and I've been healthy after. So I haven't really felt like there was that much of a physiological change for me. I'm in better shape now than I was before I went vegan, but it's hard to say if it was the change or if it was the burpees. That's the food that my food eats. I've heard that one. Your friends and people you love influence you. There's nothing wrong with that.
Tasdingerman.
Yo, thank you for the $10. Geniba. Big ups. Hope you enjoyed the subathon, and thanks for the content. Appreciate you. Regularly spamming burpees is your secret to success. Maybe for body composition. Vegan for Love sounds like a really good mid-aughts heavy metal song. Lol. When you picture advanced aliens, they don't eat meat. Maybe create meat with science if they want. Yeah, you could do the assessment for basically any animal product of like how ethically or unethically sourced it was. And there are lesser offenders and worse offenders, right? So you've got chickens laying eggs. I'll give you a couple examples. Chickens laying eggs in a local farm where they've got a nice spacious area to run around in and their environment is safe. Chickens lay eggs normally. I would say this is relatively an ethical practice. It does involve animals, and you can't really get consent from an animal for stuff. But you're not harming the chickens can lay the eggs, blah, blah, blah. So that's relatively kind to the animals compared to a whole bunch of pigs all stacked up in a small pen that can't even move. And then they're killed in a really economized yet painful way. And they're trucked from place to place. They ship animals across the ocean live. I didn't even know that until Agent Smith told me. But from the US to China, we ship animals to them because they eat more food than they produce. So, yeah. That would be on the extreme end. You've got the extremely bad treatment of animals, and then you've got the relatively good treatment of animals. Going vegetarian or vegan are just ways to basically make that a safer bet for yourself. Mass-produced factory anything is pretty disgusting. Yeah. It also really destroys communities. I don't know if you've seen the stuff of like the big pig farms in the southeastern United States and how their rivers are basically just poop. It's just poop. Your wife and you have chickens? Nice. China produces half of all the world's pork and they still import even more. Wow. How do you feel about lab-grown meat? You're a fan of this. I would try it. I'm not put off by the concept of eating meat. So in a sense, I'm not like a born vegan like Trisha is. For Trisha, the concept of eating flesh is inherently gross. For me, it's not something that I considered to be gross until I really thought about the ethics of the situation. And lab-grown meat would be a way to ethically source that. So I would be down to try that, and I hope for that to be more and more economical. I think currently it's very expensive to make like a lab-grown burger, so it's not competitive yet with the animal industry. Those baked beans were mass-produced in a factory. Yep, beans don't experience pain. At least as far as I know. What meat crosses the line? The line of what? Are you talking about lab grown or just generally? Spare a thought for the scientist growing your food, sir? Yes. What about it, Mr. Science? Would you ever have a farm that you raise your own stock for consumption? On an emotional level, that seems kind of hard to do, to watch an animal grow up and then kill it. To me, it seems more sportsmanlike to hunt. Like if you're hunting deer in a more like in an area where they're overpopulated and you like bested in combat in some sense, that seems less bad because the deer got to live a normal life and then you killed it and you eat it, as opposed to watching a cow grow up next to you and then being like, I'm gonna kill you later. If you could eat a nutrient pill that was all your dailies and calories, would you eat it or would you miss eating food? I would probably miss eating food, but it's not as much the button that I want to push as it is for some people. I'm more visually stimulated. Would you hunt with rifle or bow? A gun is more effective, but a bow is more romantic. And it feels more like a sport, like you're actually trying harder. A moose is like a really dumb donkey. Why are meese dumb? Mooses? You know how much time is spent on getting groceries, prepping it, cooking it, and cleaning with the dishes afterward? Yeah, I guess you would save all that time. That's true. Hunted meat seems ethical in circumstances where overpopulation would damage the ecosystem. Yeah, some of it's kind of fixing our own problems too, because like it was mentioned in the chat, if we eliminate the apex predators, like say the wolves and the bears that eat the deer, then the deer overpopulated. So we have a problem that we sort of caused, but we can balance it out by hunting. Do I have any regrets? I've certainly made mistakes in my life and judgment calls that weren't the best. I don't know about like strong regrets. I blew up my dad's Jeep. I let my friends drive it. That was a mistake. They off-roaded and went over some mesquite trees and they got caught in the undercarriage and exploded in fire. That was pretty dumb of me. I'm really amazed that my parents forgave me for that. Where's the smart guy that comes on? He's located in Texas. Moose is used as a singular and plural, the more you know. Nice, thank you. Would you ever get a tattoo? I'm open to the idea. Tattoos are expensive and I haven't made it a priority. Yeah. Wolves are, I think, what do they call it? A keystone species or something? Where they balance out a lot of the interactions with the wildlife. They make sure the deer population doesn't get too high. And then that means that the deer don't overeat and destroy the plant life. Were my friends okay? Yes. Everyone was okay. I took full responsibility for it. And neither of my friends admitted to contributing to the disaster. So, yeah. It wasn't until like a couple years later that my dad asked me who was actually driving it. And, yeah. Was the stream on a delay? No. But sometimes I fall behind if there are a lot of questions. Would you be offended if someone called you a piece of ass on the street? That's not the most elegant way to give someone a compliment. I don't know if I would be offended. I'd be more kind of like, Okay. If you can make a custom faction in SC2, what would it be? Theme, mobility, bipedal, quadruped. Night elves. The wolves lower the population of mountain lions, which increases bird population because wolves can't climb trees and eat all the sleeping birds. You want the guy from Texas that knows things. Well, you could write him a nice letter. You're kind of a night elf IRL. Thank you. I will wait here until Sunday then. Good. With unlimited time, what YouTube channel would want to make? What would I want to make for YouTube? Cool. Favorite ethnic cuisine? Ooh. Man, that's hard. Thai curry is so good. It's hard to not say that. Like a yellow curry with potatoes in it. That's so satisfying with brown rice. Holy smokes. Japanese food is also very good. And then French food. French food is very, very high quality. And so is Italian. I guess those are top 4. You'd make a channel dedicated to slammer content. What is one food or snack you would recommend to remove? Ooh. If you can cut down on sugary drinks, I think that's probably the highest impact for people wanting to improve their body composition. What is your least played character class across all applicable games? I don't usually play ranged casters in Dota or... Nah, I guess I play Queen of Pain. I guess that's my exception. But in WoW, I've never really mained a ranged caster.
Tazdingoman.
Chris A. Zerg, what's up, dude? I don't know if you just got here. Indian curry is also very good. Holy crap, thank you for the 10,000 bits. I don't know if you were here earlier, but we did Pudge Quest. And boy, was it very saucy. It took me 3 games to actually be able to pick the hero because it was banned every time. But I did your Pudge Quest. And I know you didn't ask for that, but we delivered it anyway. My team was super BM. I ended up reporting all 4 of them. Favorite martial art? Jeet Kune Do. I like that Bruce Lee takes from whatever fighting style and kind of weaves it into one super fighting style. That was a revolutionary thing for his time, which was instead of practicing really hard in one school of fighting, he would just take a boxing move, take a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu move, take whatever kind of move and weave it in and not be limited to one thing. Sea of Whiskey, thank you for the raid. Welcome. We are just winding down the Neuro AMA. I will take a couple more questions, and then we're going to put a pin on this. What is the most exciting thing about playing video games for you? I really like the pushing through adversity when other people give up or get tilted, like that trial kind of feeling. It's really rewarding whenever you succeed. So for Dota to be a really aggro community, that gives me fire because it makes it feel like, okay, if I have a really strong mindset, then I'm going to be passing up other people just by virtue of being steadfast in my learning process. Can you re-ask if I missed one? Yes. Why are you that dumb? I think everyone is ignorant of most things in the universe. The question is, can you gain knowledge day by day? Fire could be due to the Mad Dog 357. What is your favorite moment or stream in the last year? The Hot Ones challenge in the last subathon was really funny. We did a Hot Ones and beer tasting back to back. How do I get good? Wax on, wax off. What class would you play in retail WoW? Patara was saying that Warrior Tank is really cool and really fun. I kind of thought Demon Hunter looked cool, and I never played WoW while Demon Hunter was a thing, so that could be a thing. Have you read The Name of the Wind? I have not. Would I read it if you sent a copy? I haven't been reading that much, so that sounds like a homework assignment. What are Pudge's top 3 best qualities? I would say his ability to help people who are in need and pull them to safety. His ability to punish enemies for being within range of his hook and putting them into a worse position. And his voracious appetite, which allows him to consume his foes. You can't believe Apop managed to hang for that. He got a lot of respect from me when he did that. Based on how he normally eats food, I did not expect him to go all the way. I expected him to do 7 or 8, and then tap. He did all 10. He actually did a bonus sauce too. What is your biggest vice or shortcoming? Browsing things on the internet. Retail Warrior was fun when you played last X-Pack. And I'm okay with it. Okay with what? I would say yeah. There are worse vices to have than internet browsing voraciously. The Giles theme stream was epic. Nice, thank you. I remind you of the person from Adem minus the hand talk. I don't know what that means. Browsing things on the internet, I feel personally attacked. One of us, one of us. What kind of things do you like to browse? Let's not get into TOS. Can you do flips on a trampoline? I can do a backflip. What is something you're proud of? This community. This community is heckin' nice. You guys set a really good example, and whenever I see you in the chat, it makes me happy. A lot of people, I think, they either, I don't know how the best way to describe it. Either they let their chat kind of do whatever, or they themselves cultivate an environment where the chat is behaving poorly, and sometimes the chat can be a burden on the streamer. I think most of the time, the chat here is extremely awesome. Like, the chat makes me feel better about myself, and also sets an example that I'm proud of. So as the person who made this channel, Neuro viewers like are excellent. And that's really cool. Do you have a painted mini Yaud? A painted mini you'd be willing to share with us? What does that mean? If you've been given $1 billion to make a difference, what area of the world would you want to help? Suicide prevention. Skull Monkey, thank you for gifting a sub. You're doing your best, that's all you can say. That's the best you can do. Keep it up, fam. I think we have a lot of drags on mindset in the world and a lot of pressures that are unique and modern that make people feel really bad in ways that aren't really fair to them, but it's kind of how our society is structured now. Did you study PTSD for your degree? A little bit, yeah. I just have a bachelor's, so I didn't like get super deep into studying any particular disorder, but I took a course called abnormal psychology, and that covered a bunch of different things that can happen to the brain. Do you see any way of carrying over some of the community building experience you have here to somewhere else in society? Yeah, I don't know exactly where that would be or how that would manifest, but I've always thought that it would be cool to have a gamer boot camp, like a gamer mindset boot camp, where I had something like a LAN center and people could basically pay for a weekend or maybe a week of a trip, and they would basically play whatever games that they're trying to be competitive in, and I would get to kind of observe their behavior and then recommend where they can adjust. You feel like you have trouble saying I did my best because you feel like you always could be doing more? Yeah, but everyone could always be doing more. So doing your best is relative to a finite energy level. You can always imagine if you had like 5% more energy and you did better. But that's basically, to quote Abather,
perfection. Moving target. Can chase. Cannot catch.
he said that in the Heart of the Swarm campaign. Any new music you've been listening to recently? Do you listen to anything off stream that doesn't make it here? I actually don't listen to music too much off stream just because I'm on the phone with Trisha a lot, and also I get like music in my ears basically the whole time I'm streaming. So not really. The new Insomnium album is really good. The new Neo Obliviscaris album is really good. Been spamming those quite a bit. What is Poop Cam 2? It's like Poop Cam, but 2. You heard the talk about veganism before. You strongly recommend to look closely. You tried it and developed bad gut issues. Most people who go vegan quit veganism because it's not sustainable, it's not healthy, it's not even ethical. If you study it, since you went mostly carnivore with fruits and a few vegetables and lots of animal fat, you feel as a 34-year-old, like 15 years old, meat is not just food, it's a miracle. What's up, Maples? Thank you for the 4 months. So, Uriel, I hear you. And for people who practice different diets, absolutely listen to your body, absolutely talk to your doctor. But I think you'd be hard-pressed to see this level of fitness and then say that I'm unhealthy or not meeting my calorie needs. You're curious how veganism is not ethical. I'm curious too. Last time I had McDonald's, I didn't even eat McDonald's before I made the vegan switch very often. I kind of disliked just the quality of the food. I probably went to McDonald's with family or something. Even my family doesn't really go there very much, though. Maybe like 7 years ago, randomly. The subathon has a 3-week cap. Favorite way to eat potatoes? Normally by chewing them and swallowing them. You don't eat junk food either? You eat pure meat? How would you say that veganism is unethical, out of curiosity? People say it's not ethical because it kills thousands of animals, clearing that much farmland, beavers, rabbits, etc. Habitat destruction is absolutely an issue. So I would not say that we aren't doing bad stuff when it comes to farming plants. It's sort of like, you could say it's a lesser of two evils sort of thing. I'm old enough to remember when McDonald's still used lard in their fryers. Pinned message. Any SC2 play coming? Yes. I'll do that in a bit. Did you play sports? I played American football, track, and cross country mainly. It's not like animal farms don't need land too. True. Misclick on the pin. All good, fam. Cool. Well, thank you all for participating in the Neuro AMA and Special Baked Beans time during the Neuro Subathon 2. Appreciate your questions. If there are any other ones, you can ask them in the YouTube comments after. I will do some StarCraft 2 Legacy of the Void now. This has been an amazing time. Thank you very much for your interest, your viewership, and your support. Thank you.